So, this is the introduction to our next topic. We're in personality type, the introduction to the MBTI, and we're going to talk now about the attitudes. We're going to talk about the first one, which is where do you focus your energy? Let me ask you a question. Might you need more energy? Could you, by understanding your type, get more energy and better manage what you have? Well, let me tell you, the answer is yes, you can. You can energize yourself into this next lesson to find out how.
As we've done for sensing and intuition and thinking and feeling, let's now experience extroversion and introversion before we dig a little bit deeper into the details from MBTI theory. So let's start by making your notes about how you'd engage this situation. And remember, what's your preference? Not what would you do, but what would you do if there were no constraints on you at all? Here's the situation. You've just finished a full day conference with lots and lots of group activities, lots of talk, lots of presentations, lots and lots of interactions. And you've even had your lunch and breakfast together and your snacks. It's now 6 o'clock. What would you like to do between now, 6 o'clock, and 8 o'clock this evening when dinner, a conference dinner, begins? Make your notes and then meet me on the flip side to see whether you might be an extrovert or an introvert based on your response to this situation. Now that we've experienced the difference between extroversion and introversion in our own experience, let's see what my students in class at Maryland had to say. And these are typical answers. So the extroverts, when asked what they'd like to do after being in an all-day conference, in the couple of hours between the time they leave the conference and go to dinner, they want more people time. They want to meet friends at the bar. They hope they meet some new people at the bar. They want to talk through the day's events with others. And they might even hop on a Zoom meeting with extended family to check in. They get their energy and they extend their energy outwardly, externally. The introverts, on the other hand, have a different approach. While they have extroverted all day long in the conference, in that interim time between the conference and dinner, they may want to go to their room and catch up on emails. They may go for a run by themselves to clear their head. They may take a nap, read a book, return emails, but their energy focus is more internal, and they restore themselves by taking a break from extroverting. As you work to determine whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, let's explore these two concepts, these attitudes about where you focus your energy in a little bit more detail. Let's start with the extrovert. Extroverts tend to direct energy toward and receive energy from the external world of people, activities, and things. They're kind of chatty. They express thoughts and emotions freely. They think by talking out loud. They may be at risk of saying too much. They need relationships, lots of them, lots and lots of them, and they give breaths to life. But they may seem very shallow to introverts. I always joke that you can tell an extrovert if you get in the elevator on the 6th floor, and by the time you get to the first floor lobby, you know what elementary school he went to and what the name of his first dog was. If that's what he's thinking about, you'll know it before the first floor. Extroverts. Introverts, on the other hand, tend to direct their energy toward and receive energy from their own internal world of ideas and experiences. They tend to keep their thoughts and emotions private. They think to themselves before they talk. This is very important because introverts communicate decisions and extroverts tend to communicate their thinking process. So be careful. We'll talk about that more when we talk about communications improvements. They may be at risk of saying much, much too little. They need privacy. They give depth to life. Introverts are likely to have a smaller number of deeper relationships, while the extroverts have a very broad group. No one is a stranger to an extrovert. They may seem withdrawn to extroverts, and they may be very much underestimated when you first meet them because they don't share immediately what they're thinking and feeling. So be careful. Don't underestimate those introverts.
I'd like to share a story with you about a guy named John who I call the Big E. Possibly the very worst thing you could do to an extrovert is to isolate them away from other people, make them work alone, in effect. So I met Big E when he was a coaching client whose specialty was turnaround projects where he spent lots of time on client sites with teams. But in between big projects, his office, unbeknownst to him, pivoted to remote work. So he no longer, between projects, spent time in the office around lots of people. He had no client to go to, no office to go to. He was home alone with a dog. Well, by the time he became my coaching client, he was kind of depressed. And he was, well, let me rephrase that. He was really very depressed. He said he had a dog whom he loved, but the dog was no longer interested in listening to him talk all day. What could he do? He'd never, ever felt this way about work before. He just couldn't get excited about it. The diagnosis, remember, he was the Big E, E being for extrovert. The solution was to get that extrovert, John the Big E, out with other people. So the suggestions were schedule some regular calls that are social. Video conferences, that's okay too, with colleagues. Move your work to like the local coffee shop if you can, and be around other people. Although don't extrovert too much, or they'll ask the manager to have you go. And third, schedule some short social breaks during the workday. Go have lunch with somebody, go grab a cup of coffee, get an opportunity to stick some good solid extroversion, restore your energy into your workday. So with those 3 suggestions well in hand, John, the Big E, got his groove back. It was all better. The E's do need to extrovert.
Hi, I hope you're enjoying this free lesson from the University of Maryland's Project Management Center for Excellence. If you want to check out more lessons just like this one, click the link in the description below where you'll be able to go to our website on executive project management. There, you can find edX courses, professional short courses where you can learn from an instructor like me, as well as request custom team training for you and your organization. All right, let's get back to the lesson and I'll see you at the end.
Hi, it's story time. Let me tell you a story about all extroverted out. Introverts, and you know this if you are one, extrovert all day long. We can't engage out loud with people if we don't. So if you want to engage with other people, you've got to extrovert. That's the fate of introverts. But flexing out of our preferences demands that we use energy, and it can get tiring after a while. So how do introverts cope? Let me tell you a story about someone being all extroverted out and managing it very well. In a past life, I worked for a managing partner who was a big introvert. He spent most of his morning from early hours, 7:30 or so, in meetings, either alone with small groups and sometimes even with big teams, including clients. So he had to extrovert, 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 and he was an introvert. Now, he knew Myers-Briggs and he used it pretty well to manage himself, and others used it to manage when they spent time with him. So the managing partner, about noontime, would be coming along to the point of being extroverted out if he had back-to-back meetings for those 4 or 5 hours. And as you know, when you use energy and you get stressed, you aren't probably your best self. And we're going to call it the grip, and we'll talk about it in a later lesson. But he would get to the point where he was extroverted out. And sometimes he would even say that. He would say, I'm extroverted out. Let me take a break and I'll be back. But what everybody knew he did every day without fail was he went for a run, either by himself or with a single other runner. And that was his recharge time. And it was well known he was a much happier introvert right after that run than he might have been right before it. So he recognized his introversion, he managed his introversion well, and by allowing people to say, "Are you extroverted out?" he let people manage their interactions with him. It's story time again. This story is entitled, "It's a Cocktail Party in There." Now, you know you are an introvert when you realize that there is a very interesting cocktail party going on in your head all the time. Those of you who are introverts, do you know what I mean? Can you entertain yourself almost indefinitely with what's just running around in your head? Do you sometimes wish people would simply stop talking? They can be so exhausting with all that extroversion. Goodness. Does your significant other at home or at work sometimes tell you that you never, ever, ever, ever told them something and you are for sure certain that you did? If so, then you may be an introvert.
Are you curious? Would you like to learn more about introversion and extroversion? There are many, many books available on this. I've selected 4 to share with you. I think these are all very good, and there are many more. Quiet, The Power of Introversion in a World Where We Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain is the first one I'd like to recommend. Many people confuse introversion with shyness or a lack of being socially adept, and that's not really what it's about. And so if you are an introvert and feel that you need to claim your space and own your power, Quiet is the book for you. The second one that might be interesting is The Introvert Survival Guide by Patrick King. Introverts, by their very nature, must extrovert in the real world. The only way introverts can share their ideas and feelings is if they extrovert. So they have to work against their preference. So this guide is one of the ways to help you be a better introvert extroverting in the extrovert world. Same too with the next book, How to Be an Introvert in an Extrovert World by Michelle Connelly. The focus here in these 2 middle books is to help introverts understand that they bring tremendous capability by virtue of their preference, but they have to learn to manage their energy appropriately because they're working against preference when they extrovert. And the last and not least is the Introvert to Ambivert. And you've probably heard about ambiverts. Ambiverts are supposed to be introverts who extrovert. Now, from a science and theory standpoint, all introverts are ambiverts, but we'll let that ride. And this book you'll find interesting as well.
It's now time to recap the big ideas in the attitudes. And the first one we've talked about is introversion and extroversion. The big idea of this lesson is that by understanding your preference for E for extrovert or I for introvert, you can manage your energy better and have better discussions with others. Remember, E's tend to generate and direct energy externally. They have broad circle of acquaintances, they share whatever they're thinking about, and they think out loud. They make their decisions right out there in the open, and they communicate their deliberations. So let them run if they're thinking it through. I's, on the other hand, tend to generate and direct energy internally. It's not that introverts are shy or socially maladept. It's just that they are quiet. They do their thinking in their head by themselves, privately first, and then their preference is to communicate decisions. They have a deep circle of friends, but it's going to be a smaller group likely than extroverts. They share what they're thinking and how they're feeling very selectively. They like their privacy. And as I said, they think and then talk. They communicate decisions.
Hey there, did you enjoy that lesson as much as I did? If you did, go ahead and give us a like. If you want to see another one, go ahead and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, put them below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Moreover, is there somebody in your life who really needs this lesson right now? If so, go ahead and share it with them. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Now, we look forward to seeing you in the next lesson where you can learn even more from the University of Maryland Project Management Center for Excellence. Thanks so much.